Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration. This is a special spotlight on Trial of the Amazons. We're up to part 5. It's Wonder Woman number 786, written by Michael W. Conrad and Becky Cloonan. We have Rosie Campe and Becky Cloonan as artists. Marisa Louise does the colors. Pat Brosso on letters. There is a young Wonder Woman backup, which is written by Jordi Belair. Art is by Paulina Ganeschow. Colors by Kendall Good, and letters by Becca Carey. We have talked extensively on these Trial of the Amazon spotlights so far about being a little surprised how political the story has been, and having expected a little more action. Actually spoke to Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad about that at WonderCon recently, and they discussed the challenges of wanting to make it accessible and make everybody understand, even if they hadn't been reading any previous Wonder Woman stuff for the last year, and they just felt like they had to do so much setup, and that's been part of the challenge for them in terms of not that much action. We finally do get the start of the action in this issue, but maybe ironically enough, I think this was my least favorite issue of the series so far, and it has to do not just with the story and kind of the turn that it takes, despite the fact that we finally get the action we've been looking for. It's not the action I was expecting. Maybe I'm just being sort of too entitled. But I also really didn't care for the art. And the art continually pulled me out of the story because I just didn't care for the style of art. And I also didn't think that the transitions between the panels were particularly good at times. So again, I felt lost. It got better as the story went on, but like early on, I felt like the storytelling between the panels was a little lacking. So yeah, this was a challenging issue. Still have hopes that at the end of the day they'll pull it all together for this Trial of the Amazon series and or event, and I'll feel positively about it. But I don't know. Jury's still out. What do you think, Rocky?
Well, um, look, I got mixed feelings about this because, like you, I share the general sentiment that there's not enough action here. I feel like I personally feel as a Wonder Woman fan. Now, I am a long-term Wonder Woman fan. I've been reading Wonder Woman for decades, so I'm old school. But I really do feel like I've been spoon-fed this storyline because every issue of Trial of the Amazons, I'm reminded of every single plot point, and so I feel like I know exactly what's going on. And now, in the same vein, and I hate to say this, and I'll be as constructively critical as I can. I'm reminded of plot points that ultimately I think are somewhat foolish, or somewhat I question the plot points to begin with. I'm and we've already identified some of them. One of them being, why are they having a contest to guard Doom's doorway when they already have 3 guards guarding Doom's doorway anyway? And in any event, we finally get to this issue. I mean, we've got Queen Hippolyta has been killed. We have Cassie Sandsmark, the Wonder Girl, doing the investigating. Trying to find. So they've had a murder of a former queen. Queen Hippolyta has been murdered. So they're investigating that. Meanwhile, they're starting this contest, and in this issue, part 5 of 7 of Trial of the Amazons, the contest gets underway, and once again, we are told what the rules are, just in case you forgot the rules that were told in part 2, 3, and 4. We're told again what they are. And so what they are is, you got 3 tribes of Amazons. You got the Esquisita, the Banamacdal, and the Themyscirans. Each tribe appoints a champion, and we got some additions to the rules now. There's one little thing. For some reason, Diana, Wonder Woman, can be her own contestant. She doesn't need a tribe. She can just join because. It's never really disclosed as to why, but apparently the oracles. Each tribe of Amazons has an oracle, and these oracles at the beginning of this issue are explaining the rules, because these oracles have a connection to the gods, and the gods just tell them, oh, by the way, we're going to give each of your champions something. We're going to give Donna Troy of the Banner McDowell, we're going to give her a rope, and she's going to have to somehow use that during her trial. And we're going to give a compass to Philippus, to Philippus of the Themyscirans. She can use this compass for navigation at some point in her trial. And then, of course, we're going to give a bow and arrow to Yara Flor, the champion for the Esquisita tribe, and she will use her bow and arrow to do some hunting at some point in her trial. And the Amazon that utilizes and upholds Amazonian ideals the best during this trial of the Amazons will be declared the winner. And not only will they be the winner and appointed to guard Doom's doorway, but the queen of the winning tribe member will become queen of all of the Amazons. What is not told, of course, what if Diana wins? Then who becomes queen? Because Diana doesn't represent a tribe. So we're not really sure. That these are open questions that are never really told to us. But as it turns out, as we will get to, that subject quickly becomes very moot, because this isn't really, in my view, about a contest at all. Because the plot sort of makes all of these issues leading up to it, in my view, almost largely irrelevant, to a way that frustrates the heck out of me. And we'll get into that. But so this trial starts off, and I share your sentiment about the art. The art is wonky, but at the same time, as the art is a little bit it seems a little bit amateurish in parts, it does get across that we're in, like, this does look like we're in sort of like a Roman or an Amazonian Colosseum, and all of the champions are there ready for the contest to begin. And but then all of a sudden there's an explosion, and this explosion is caused by Altum, or Altum, 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 the survivor. Now, if somebody is just picking up Trial of the Amazons, they're going to get to this page and they're going to say them to themselves, who is this guy? Well, he's Altum the survivor. Who? I mean, his addition to this storyline, I think, does the story itself. I mean, it's a little bit of a disservice. It's disingenuous to if you're trying to attract new fans, suddenly all of a sudden this man appears, and of course he's a bad guy. Right? We're bombarded with women everywhere, beautiful women. Most of the time, they're beautifully drawn. And of course, it's Amazons. And then all of a sudden, we get this guy. He's Eltum the survivor. He's supposed to be an albino, but he's not here. Here, he's got blonde hair, and he doesn't look. So I think he's artistically he's not rendered properly. I thought he was rendered. He made his first appearance in the Wonder Woman annual, 2021 annual, and Eltum the survivor. And readers will not know this if they're only reading this Trial of the Amazons. His tribe, his own people, have a claim to the land upon which Themyscira is based. But he apparently blows into this magic horn, and this calls forth this Equineta monster, and the Colosseum, sort of the land upon which the Colosseum is, it collapses, and Wonder Woman, Yara Flor, Philippus, and Donna Troy fall underneath, where apparently ancient caverns and caves are discovered underneath Themyscira. And they believe that this must be the plan of the gods. The gods are putting them on this quest. It seems really odd that if the gods knew that that a terrorist was going to come and blow up Themyscira, the fact that the gods never bothered giving the Amazonians, sort of a heads up, it's another reason why another beef I have with Wonder Woman mythology. All her gods are villains. I don't care what anybody says. And yet here these seemingly intelligent women are worshiping these gods who don't seem to have any problem at all, throwing all kinds of obstacles against them, including a terrorist that just blows them up and does whatever he wants with no consequence. But I digress. There so we got Donna Troy, Philippus, Wonder Woman, and Yara Flor. They're now exploring these caverns, and they don't even know what the hell they're doing there. They assume this is part of the contest. And I guess maybe it is, because who knows? The gods work in mysterious ways, right? I mean, who knows? The problem is, we readers, we really don't know. I guess we're just gonna have to accept the fact that this is what the gods do. And so Donna Troy gets frustrated. She's been given this knot, this rope. She's not even sure what to do with it. So Philippus shows her how to untie a knot, and then Yara Flora is going to use her bow, and then there's a lot of talking, and they come across these skulls, and we're never told who the bones belong to, who these skeletons belong to under Themyscira. We're never told anything about any of this. Who are they the bones of? We don't know. Maybe they're the bones of Eltum, the survivors' people. Maybe, I don't know. I'm speculating. Then in the midst of all this, they need to know where to go, and so all of a sudden Philippus decides, well, I don't know where we should go, but I got this compass, and she decides to ask the compass where to go. And all of a sudden she for some reason she asks Athena, through the compass, where should we go? And then the compass becomes magical and points them in the right direction to go. And then they go off in a direction, and where they end up being attacked by a monster, an echidna, an echidna, echidna. Do you know how to pronounce that? Echidna monster.
Yeah,
It's a
Echidna. She's the
echidna.
mother of all monsters.
Yeah, the Hounds of Hades, the mother of all monsters, and they ultimately end up defeating this monster, and they're because they're under Themyscira, they somehow this compass, as they're fighting this mother of all monsters, that they're close to the actual Doom's doorway, and they end up pushing this echidna monster through Doom's doorway, locking her behind Doom's doorway. And as they open Doom's doorway to push her in, to lock her behind Doom's doorway, Diana hears chaos. Chaos telling her, you promised me redemption, Diana. And chaos is the one god in the graveyard of the gods. If you recall at the beginning, when Diana was trying to make her way back from the quintessence at the end of Death Metal, she rejected joining the quintessence. She made her way back, going through various realms in the multiverse, trying to make her way back to our world. She went through the graveyard of the gods, where she discovered that all the gods had died, and she managed to bring all the gods back except for one, and she had to leave one back as payment to the god she was negotiating with, and she left Chaos there. Somehow Chaos escaped the graveyard of the gods, because it's like Arkham Asylum. There's like a revolving door with the graveyards of the gods. Gods just can't die. They're always coming back to life. And of course, Chaos, this completely new god, and of course it's a male god, comes back, and it's evil, and it wants to destroy Themyscira. It wants to destroy all the Amazons, and of course that's the ultimate warning that is given to Diana. Diana, who ends up being sucked into the behind Doom's doorway. Diana sacrifices herself and basically tells Donna and Yara Flor and Philippus, go warn Queen Nubia, warn her, and Queen Faruka, warn her that it's Chaos. Chaos is the one behind all of this. And meanwhile, Chaos is inflicting all kinds of mental abuse on the Amazons, causing them to go crazy on the island and attack each other. And there's a lot of terrible things happening on the island. Amazons are attacking each other and what have you. And it ends with Queen Faruka, Hippolyta, and the Queen, and I think Portia or Portia, the representative of the Equisita tribe. Those three Amazons uniting, knowing that they've got to fight and battle Chaos. And that will take us to the next step. Now, I got some criticism here. I feel that the whole contest is kind of moot. I understand what I believe that Becky, Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad were doing, and Vita Ayala and Stephanie Williams. They're clearly trying to show that this maybe wasn't really the contest. What's more important about the contest isn't competition between the Amazons, but more upholding Amazonian ideals, which don't just involve competing with each other, but also cooperating when necessary and sharing their wisdom with each other, sharing their skills, and rather than thinking of each other as enemies, embrace each other as potential collaborators in the defeat of a common enemy. And by doing that, they're embracing the ultimate Amazonian ideal, and that's ultimately what they're doing here. And I think that's what I think that's what they were going for. I personally was hoping for more of a contest between the Amazons. I guess maybe it's a gender thing. I'm a guy, but I wanted Donna Troy to, kick Diana's ass, and I wanted Jorah Floor to get down and dirty in the mud and the dirt, and not to, I just wanted to see some battles between Philippus and, I thought they were going to battle each other. I didn't think this would just be like a battle of, like where they're on this quest, and it's this mysterious god, that somehow the gods are behind this explosion. The gods knew that this was going to happen. The gods knew that Eltram the Survivor was going to call forth this mother of all monsters and bring down the Colosseum on Themyscira. It just seems extraordinary to me, but apparently the gods work in mysterious ways, right? And there is, in that sense, I guess, even though that wasn't my expectation, if I'm being as fair as I can to the story, okay, I get it. My but I would say though that with all that time placed on the rules of the contest and the fact that they're also fighting for who's going to be queen, it almost seems moot now because they are battling a common enemy. It feels like I feel like I've been lied to a little bit about this, and maybe that's just me, and I'll take responsibility for my own false expectations about this. But I actually thought this was going to be more of a competition and a contest, but what it really is just about four Amazons. This, you didn't need a contest for this. So it seems almost like wasted issues, and we and well, I don't want to, we're familiar with, I'm familiar with how this ends, but suffice to say that um, I appreciate what the writers are trying to do. I feel I was spoon fed a little bit too much, and I feel a little let down by the direction of where this story is going. But I can appreciate that, where they're maybe where they want to be going with it. But I don't know, Jace, man. I feel a little bit down from this, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I never specifically thought that we'd see these Amazons actually fight against each other. I mean, I hear Trial of the Amazons and I think, well, similar to the trial for choosing who's going to be Wonder Woman, right? So feats of strength, feats of agility, shooting arrows, riding on the back of a horse and trying to do various, feats of strength and
Yeah.
show your fighting prowess and that sort of thing. I didn't think they'd necessarily fight against each other. But yeah, that hasn't been at all what we've gotten. Uh, and so, yeah, I mean, you can't have it both ways. I we're saying we don't want to be spoon fed and being told the same things over and over. And maybe part of this has to do with the fact that this event, this crossover, is going through all these different books, right? Like maybe you maybe you pause the regular line and you just call it Trial of the Amazons, and you just print 7 issues of that called Trial of the Amazons. Granted, that's not going to boost sales or whatever, but it's like because it crosses over in all these different titles, they're constantly having to remind people because, oh, maybe someone's only reading the Wonder Woman title and they're not picking up the Wonder Girl title. So you got to constantly remind us of the rules and whatever, and you're losing real estate on a story that the scope is probably too big for the amount of pages they have to tell in it anyway. Because yes, and I said this from the beginning that it was probably going to end up being more about bringing these Amazonian tribes together, which I was perfectly fine with. I even went so far as to speculate that Hippolyta killed herself in order to bring the tribes together. I still think that might be the case. So, yeah, maybe it was never about being a trial of the Amazons in the first place. Another thing that I speculated about, maybe it was the Amazons themselves being put on trial by Altum's race. Like Rocky said, we were introduced to him in the Wonder Woman Annual 2021, and supposedly he was saying, his people, his race, his species, whatever, was there on Paradise Island first, probably below the water was the insinuation, and then these Amazons showed up and kind of took over, and it's not unlike the Western Europeans coming to the United States and dislodging the Native American indigenous peoples that were here, and so maybe it was the Amazons being put on trial. We've had none of that, no follow up on Altum or his people until here, and yeah, he just shows up with no explanation whatsoever. And so I didn't mind it necessarily because I know who this guy is, but it just feels so strange because, like Rocky said, we have been spoon fed so much of the story, but then when it comes to this guy, we're not. There's almost no explanation whatsoever. So you can't do it both ways, DC. Either don't spoon feed us the story and give us more of the story, give us more of whatever, more of uh, Cassie doing her investigation, or more of the political intrigue, or more of Diana or Donna Troy or Yara Flor actually training for this contest they think they're about to embark on. More of something, as opposed to giving us pages that are regurgitating the same stuff, but then when it comes to Altum, you don't give us anything. So it just, that's what makes Altum's appearance here feel so strange, because everything else is explained in excruciating detail and repetitiveness, but then when we get to Altum, nothing. So that's part of what I think the failure of the structure of the story. So yeah, like I said, I still have hopes that at the end of the day, I'll enjoy this for what it is. Um, I do think I would have enjoyed it more if, instead of the political stuff and the repetitiveness of the story, if we'd gotten more of that Altum story and what's going on with. I mean, there's only two parts left, and we're just now getting to Altum and his people. I rather would have had that from the beginning, instead of wasting real estate repeating things that we already knew. So again, maybe it's just a personal preference. Um, I'm not going to harp on the art anymore. I said what I said. It feels clunky. Transitions aren't particularly good for some of the pages, and sometimes in some places it's great, other places not so great. Especially the line work. It just, the faces especially looked wonky to me, and it pulled me out of the story. So yeah, it makes it a little tough. Um, there is the young Wonder Woman story in the back that, much like we've said throughout this Wonder Woman run, it always feels so weird when she shows up, because although it's good, it just feels so wildly different in tone than the regular story that's going on. So, but they do collect it separately, and I do recommend it for young readers. It is a lot of fun. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out at the end of the day. I think the tribes will end up coming together, and Hippolyta will probably return in some way, or at least find out that she was the one that offed herself to try to bring the tribes together.
Mhm.
Um,
I
so
I
yeah, I
per-
mean, it was okay. Well, I'd say one of the biggest disappointments in terms of just, I think, the art not doing service to the story was also the fact that the last part four, it kind of ended on Cassie with the aha light bulb moment. Hey, I know who killed Hippolyta, and then that's not even mentioned here. Like, there's no part of Cassie's investigation that's even brought up, which I thought
I
was
that's a
irritating.
that's a very good point, and obviously that will likely be next issue where Cassie will talk more about some of her maybe findings, because she's apparently a detective now, which is news to me. But in any event, um, I was disappointed with the revelation of Chaos as a villain here, and I can't underscore this enough. I personally, one of the things that I really liked about Nubia and the Amazons by Vita Ayala and Stephanie Williams, I liked that Medusa was brought back. I would have much preferred Medusa being brought back as a villain instead of Chaos. I think Medusa is a more well-known villain. Bring back Medusa, prop her up. They should have propped her up as the villain. They have a history. Wonder Woman and Medusa have a history. Wonder Woman chopped off Medusa's head in that well-known, one of the best-known Wonder Woman runs is Greg Rucka's run, and that was a worldwide event when Wonder Woman defeated Medusa, had to blind herself, and it was a wonderful series. And it would have been really epic had Medusa been propped up and empowered by Doom's doorway, or even perhaps even empowered by Chaos to come back to be this major villain. I would have much have preferred that, because no one's heard of Chaos. I mean, again, if you're just reading Trial of the Amazons, all of a sudden, out of the blue, on one page, you hear somebody saying Chaos. She just hears the phrase Chaos. That's all Diana hears. And people aren't going to know who that is. And quite frankly, I wasn't even sure who that is. I mean, I had to like Chaos. So that sounded familiar. I just remembered. Okay, that was in that. It was in the Wonder Woman story that we read, and that this was in the Graveyard of the Gods. But that was really an obscure, uneventful reference, because we know nothing about Chaos. Why would we be scared of Chaos? Really, what do we know about it? There's no we have no history with Chaos. We don't know. There's nothing to be afraid of here that we can see. I mean, possessing the minds of the it just, to me, out of all this build up, it really lacks some gravitas that it ought to have had. And quite frankly, I would have much preferred to have seen just a different villain. But that's me playing script doctor, so that's probably me being a little unfair as a reviewer.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I guess we'll have to see how the last two issues play out. Like Rocky said, he's already read them. I have them in our press preview. I haven't had a chance to check them out yet, but we'll certainly be back when the time is right to talk about part six. Maybe it's next week. Maybe it's the following week. I think it's next week, and then part seven, and we'll wrap it up. So don't forget to go check out our standalone episode for Flashpoint Beyond number 0, which drops this week, kicking off that event from Jeff Johns, Jeremy Adams, and Tim Sheridan as writers. Eduardo Riso does the art for the first issue, and then the rest of the issues are by the art is by Zermanico. So go check that out if you're curious about Flashpoint Beyond. And then we have the regular DC Spotlight with all the other DC issues that are dropping this week. So be sure and check that out. We appreciate you joining us as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.